Implementing enterprise storage solution in Server 2016. Now, first overview about this DAS, NAS and SAN. We have these different type of storage solution available like DAS, NAS and SAN. And also we have option to configure the block level storage or file level storage. Now let's see what is DAS, what is NAS and what is SAN. Now first, DAS. Now DAS means directly attached storage. It is directly attached storage which is called DAS. Now directly attached storage, that means it is directly connected to our server. Like we connect the hard disk, whether it is SCSI hard disk or SATA or SSD, whatever. But whatever these directly connected to the server, the storage which is directly connected to the server, it is called DAS. That is physically attached to the server. So these type of storage we call it DAS. Now what is the advantage of using the DAS storage? First, easy to configure, inexpensive solution. That means it is cheap, inexpensive, and we can easily configure it. We don't need anything extra to configure this. We just connect it and it will be available. It is like plug and play. Now still it has some disadvantages also. First, isolated because the disks are attached to a single server. Now what do you mean by the isolated? Isolated, that means it will be available only for the single server because it is connected to that particular server. If we want to use the same storage for the other server, it is not possible for us. It will be only available for that particular storage. It will not be available for the other servers too. Other servers, they cannot use that storage. Then it is less flexible for allocation also. That means when you try to allocate the space to someone from that storage, it is less flexible. Less flexible, that means it is not easy to allocate the storage from that storage to everyone. So this is what DAS. Very simple. It is directly connected hard disk with the server. Now we can configure and we can manage it from the disk management, or we can manage it from the server manager. We can create volumes in it, simple volume and the other volumes also. Now what next is NAS. Now NAS means network attached storage. Network attached storage is that it is attached to the dedicated storage device and accessed through the network shares. That means the storage is particularly connected to the single server, but we can share the storage through the protocol. The protocol is the CIFS or even NFS. By using this protocol, we share the storage to different servers also, and they can access the server. They can access the share. Now NAS means we share the storage as a share folder. That means we create a folder and we share the folder from that server. So the server will share the folder using this CIFS or NFS protocol. It will be available for the different users or different servers. So different servers share folder, and that is called the NAS. That means we are sharing the storage through the network. Now sharing the network as a share folder to the other user, it is called NAS. So we have two options there, CIFS protocol or NFS. CIFS is used to share the folder within Windows machines or within Windows environment. That means we want to share these share folder from one server, Windows server, to other Windows server or other Windows client. NFS is actually network file system protocol. It is used to share the folders in Linux environment. Now in Windows servers also we have an option to share the folder for Linux for the NFS protocol that can be used by the Linux machines. It is not available for Windows machine. When you share the folder, we can share it from the server, but it is available for the Linux machine. Okay, now what is the advantages of this NAS? First, relatively inexpensive NAS offers centralized storage at an affordable price. Now remember, directly attached storage, that is DAS, is not giving you centralized storage. It is giving you what? Isolated storage. Isolated storage, that means only connected to single server. But by using the NAS, we can share the storage with other servers also, and even we can use the centralized storage. Centralized storage, that means we have 2, 3, 4 servers, and the all 4 servers can access the share folder, and they can use the storage share from the centralized share. That means we have one file server, and from this file server we share the storage by using this CIFS or NFS, and then the other servers can use this share from this folder, from this file server. So it is centralized storage for them. So if anyone wants to access the storage share, then they can access it from this file server. And also advantage is that it is very easy to configure. Easy to configure, that means we don't have to do much configurations. We don't need any extra devices or something. We can configure it on existing network, whatever the network infrastructure we have, we can configure it easily on that. It is just a share folder, but it is having a disadvantages. It has a disadvantage of like slower access time. It will be slow, it will be access slow. It based on the network and based on the server, and because of the protocol sometime it get the access slow. Then not an enterprise solution. Now basically it is not for the enterprise solution. Now why? Because in the enterprise environment we have multiple, or we have large amount of data, and we have multiple other servers and clients who wants to access that data. So it will be difficult to manage this when you have a big amount of data to share and you have big numbers of users to access. So basically it is not for the enterprise solution, and also it is a little slower than the other solutions, enterprise solution we have. So for enterprise network, what we have is NAS. What we have is SAN. So what is SAN? SAN is actually storage area network. It is called storage area network. Storage area network, that means we have a centralized storage server. Remember, it is a storage server, that means it is a storage device which we can use to share the storage, and from there, from the storage device, we share the storage through the network, and all the servers, all the other servers or clients can access that storage, and they can use the storage at the same time, and they can even write the storage at the same time. Now in this we use the SAN devices. We have SAN devices. The SAN devices are available. We can use the SAN devices as a storage devices, and then we connect them to the network, and then we can configure it, then we can use it from the different servers. Now what is the advantages we have here? It is the fastest access time. It gives you the fastest access time. Then easily expandable. It is very easy to expand this kind of storage. Then it gives you the centralized storage. Centralized storage, that means two or more servers can access the same storage at the same time also. Then it will give you high level of redundancy. High level of redundancy also it can give you, because in these storage devices we can configure different RAID levels and different technologies to create the high availability. Then what is the disadvantage here? It is more expensive. It is expensive than the other options. We have DAS, we have SAN, we have NAS, but this is what the more expensive than that. Then requires the specialized skills also, because normally we are not able to configure it like NAS. NAS is just a share folder. We can do it by just right clicking on it and share it. But here we need a centralized. We need a specialized skill for this, to configure these NAS, these SAN. Now implement SANs by using fiber channel or iSCSI. So we have two options here. We can implement by using the fiber channel, or we can use the iSCSI. Now fiber channel, that means it needs a infrastructure where you need the fiber optic cables, we need the fiber cable, fiber channel also, fiber hub also, that is switch also, which supports that fiber channel optic network, and we need the storage devices also. Now it will be very expensive. And other hand, we can use the iSCSI also. iSCSI will also give you the same functions like centralized, easy to access, easy to expandable, centralized storage. It will give you the high redundancy, but we can configure this iSCSI on our existing LAN network. We don't have to get the other LAN, other advanced network configuration. We don't have to get the fiber channel and everything. We can configure the iSCSI on our existing network. So what is the comparison in between these different network storage solutions we have? DAS, it is least complex and lowest setup cost because it is directly connected. Then we have NAS. This is the best solution for specific situations and complementary to DAS and SAN. So we can use this NAS as a centralized storage also, and it is complicated. It is best solution for some specific situations. Like we can use it for sharing some data within all these different users and different servers. But if suppose we want to use it for some application, for example, if suppose we want to use it for the application, which application wants to have a centralized storage, then it is not a suitable option. This is not a suitable option for it because it will be very slow for it. It is slow to give you the access and that application will not work properly. So mostly those applications actually don't support it. So they don't support it to use a share folder for the centralized storage. So in that case we can use the SAN. SAN gives you the highest performing and has the most features, and feature trends like Windows Server storage features are expanding to improve capabilities when using the DAS also. Now Windows servers are actually expanding the features and improving the capabilities even when you are using the DAS, directly attached storage. Now block level storage versus file level storage. So what is block level storage and for what is file level storage? So first, block level storage is actually the SAN. When you share the SAN, when you share the storage with the SAN, centralized storage area network, so actually we are sharing the block of storage. We are not sharing the files. Remember, we are not sharing the files, we are directly sharing the storage. And when we use the NAS, that is network attached storage, so basically we are not sharing the storage, we are sharing the files. So in that case we don't share the storage, we share directly the file. So whatever the file we want to give the network, we want to give the other server or other users, we directly share that file, and that is called file level storage. And when we share the storage through the SAN, so basically what we are doing there, we are actually sharing the storage. That means we create one drive and we share the drive directly. So on the client side you will see the drive directly, you will see the drive as a hard disk. You will see the hard disk there, and the client can do what? It can use that hard disk as a locally attached storage. So in a block level storage, what we do, we directly share the storage, like we share the hard disk directly. So from using the SAN, we share the block of storage, like I share the block of 10 GB. So when client access that 10 GB storage, it will use it as a hard disk, and the machine can use it as a locally connected hard disk. But when you share any files, when you use a NAS, so what you are doing, you are sharing the file level storage. That means you are not sharing the hard disk, you are sharing only the folder and the files inside the folder. So whatever the other user or server access is only the files, they don't access the storage, they cannot use it as a hard disk. So block level storage is what? It is high performing, It is often SAN based because it is working on SAN, and we know the SAN is what? High performance. Presents LUNs to servers. That means LUNs to server, that means block of storage like a hard disk. Logical unit numbers. Then it is not the most cost effective because it is very expensive also. In other hand, file level storage is delivered via NAS, a storage server or a file server, and uses CIFS SMB share folder by using this CIFS SMB protocol, share folders, or it can use the NFS protocol by using the exports for Linux systems. Uses block level storage on the storage backend also. Now what that means, like it can also use the block level storage on the backend. Like it backend, like block level storage is basically the hard disk and partitions. So hard disk, from the hard disk it will create, we can create the folder and share the folder through the assembly or CIFS or even NFS. So we can do what? We are sharing the block level storage as a file level storage. So we can do that also. So it can be a backend, in the backend storage it can be a block level storage, and we can share the file from that, and we can say it is a file level storage. Now when you do the SAN storage, so there is two options available there, like the fiber channel and iSCSI, and fiber channel over Ethernet. So first, what is fiber channel? So fiber channel is like, it is a network infrastructure to share the information, share the network. So fiber channel components include a SAN, that is a storage device. Then we need the computer with an HBA card, hot bus adapter card, that can support the fiber optic cable, fiber optic network, and can also support the SAN. Then we need fiber channel switches also. Fiber channel switches, like they can support the fiber optic network cables. So these are things. First we need to configure the fiber channel storage. So we need first the SAN device. SAN device are different devices. It comes like it looks like a server, but it is only having a hard disk. For example, I'll show you this. And this is like a SAN devices, where you can see it looks like a server. Here what we have here, it is a storage devices, SAN, for using the SAN, where you can connect different hard disks. Here you can see different hard disks. You can connect multiple hard disks here, and you can configure those hard disks. You can do configure here RAD on a RAD kind of thing. You can configure the high availability and everything, and then this will be connected to the network, and then you can use them. You have a small SANs also, where you have only 4 hard disks. This is having 5 hard disks, 4, 5. So based on the type of the SAN device we use, we can use expensive SAN devices, we can use the small SAN devices, but these are the storage devices which we use to connect. And then what we need the fiber optic cable connections, we need the fiber optic channel cables, switches, and then we need the hot bus adapter card, that is called HBA card, which supports this SAN and fiber channel network. So these are the physical component we need. Then fiber channel over Ethernet. So fiber channel over Ethernet, that means give you the benefits of fiber channel using while using an inexpensive pre-existing Ethernet infrastructure. That means we don't use this hot bus adapter card, we don't use the fiber channel switches and cables. We have already configured the LAN network with the normal Ethernet infrastructure. Now we can use that network to configure the SAN also. So we can connect the SAN device to this existing LAN network, and that is called fiber channel over Ethernet. That means we are using the fiber channel over the Ethernet. Then fiber channel layouts include arbitrated loop, point to point, or switched fabric. So these are also required to configure it. These layout, like arbitrated loops, we can configure in this, and it is totally physical. we can create the loop for the storage, then we can connect directly point to point, or we can connect the switched fabric which is connected to fiber channel switch and it is doing switching. Now considering for implementation or implementing the fiber channel. Now infrastructure considering, first existing switch and cabling infrastructure. So first when you try to configure the fiber channel, then you have to consider these things, that what are the switches you are having existing, what are the switches right now existing in your network, and the cabling infrastructure you have, and do existing servers have the HBA cards, and then existing storage infrastructure what you have. Then you have to consider about the cost, because fiber channel is often more expensive than the other solutions. So you have to consider like how much cost it will be, and you can afford the cost or not. Then large initial investment required, and also it requires a large initial investment. That means first time you have to invest a large amount of money to buy those SAN devices, then to configure these switches, fiber channel switches and all that. You have to configure the whole infrastructure for it. So first time you have to invest the large amount of money. Then initial and ongoing training might add considerably to the cost also. Then you have to give the training to your employees also, and the administrator and the users also, to work with this fiber channel. So you have to add the training cost also, so it can be added there. So these are the things which you have to consider before going for the fiber channel. Now in other hand we have iSCSI. Now iSCSI we can use, and it can give you a same feature like this fiber channel over the existing LAN network what we have configured. Like right now mostly we have what normal Ethernet infrastructure, where we have the RJ45 category 6 or 5 cables, and then we have normal switches. So we have these network, so we can use that network to configure the iSCSI also. It works like a same like fiber channel, but it can configure on the existing normal Ethernet infrastructure, but it will not give you that much performance like the fiber channel can give, because the fiber channel is more faster than the normal LAN network. So it will give you the more performance than iSCSI, but it is very costly than this iSCSI. Now what is iSCSI here? iSCSI transmits SCSI commands over IP network. First, iSCSI and SCSI is different. SCSI is a hard disk type. We have a hard disk called iSCSI. SCSI. Then iSCSI is a protocol. iSCSI is a protocol which used to transfer the data from one storage device to other, from these storage, the network storage. So iSCSI is a protocol for the configuring of the SAN network or SAN storage, and SCSI is a hard disk. So this iSCSI protocol uses to transmit SCSI hard disk SCSI commands over IP network. So SCSI commands, that means storage commands, the storage device commands. So it uses to do that. So iSCSI is basically a protocol. iSCSI means internet SCSI. That means the SCSI is the hard disk type. So internet SCSI, that means the SCSI which is available to on internet. So what we do here in this iSCSI configuration, we use the server, or we can use the storage as a iSCSI target. It is called iSCSI target. Now iSCSI target, that means the server or the storage device who is going to share the storage. So is going to share the storage. Now we can get the dedicated storage device, or we can use our existing server, our existing 2016 server which is connected with the directly attached storage. We can use that storage, we can use that server as a iSCSI target. Now iSCSI target means the server which is sharing the storage. Then those clients or those servers who is accessing the storage, who is accessing the iSCSI storage, it is called iSCSI initiator. So iSCSI clients that runs the iSCSI initiator, it is the client of that iSCSI storage. So the iSCSI target, which is sharing the storage, and iSCSI initiator, which is accessing the storage. So these are the components we have. First, IP network that provides high performance and redundancy, like normal network, normal Ethernet infrastructure we have. Then iSCSI targets. So as I said, the target is a server that run on the storage device and enable access to the device, enable access to the disk. So the iSCSI target will be the server which is sharing the storage and enabling the access of the disk to other servers. Then iSCSI initiators, that means the software component or host adapter on the server that provides access to iSCSI target. Then iSCSI IQN. IQN is a iSCSI query name. IQN means iSCSI query name. This is a globally unique identifier that iSCSI uses to addresses initiator and targets on an iSCSI network. It is a name for the target and initiator actually. It is a globally or uniquely identified. It is a unique format of this name. The IQN has a unique format of name for the target and name for the initiator. So for identifying the target, initiator identifying the target, there is a unique IQN for the target, and for the target to identify the initiator, the unique IQN name for that initiator is also there. So this is a globally unique identifier name which is used to identify the initiator and target. So these are the component of the iSCSI. And iSCSI components are like iSCSI target and initiator. So what I says, iSCSI target is available as a role service in Windows Server 2016. Now this iSCSI target is not available in Windows client machines, client operating system. It is not available under Windows 8 and in Windows 10, Windows 8, Windows 7. It is not available. Target is only available on server operating system. So in server operating system, in Server 2016, Server 2012, Server 2008, whatever, it is available as a role. It is available as a role. We can install as a role this iSCSI target server role that we can use to share the storage from the server. Then iSCSI initiator runs as a service in the operating system. Now the initiator is available on server and client both. It is available under Server 2016, Server 2012, Server 2008 also, and also it is available under Windows 10, Windows 8, Windows 7 and other Windows machines. It is available in the server in a operating system as a service. So we can use our Windows 10 machine, Windows client machine to connect the target, and also we can use the server machine to get the access of the target by using the iSCSI initiator. Now the iSCSI targets provide the following functionality. It provides a network or diskless boot, then server application storage, heterogeneous storage, lab environments. It provides all these switch functionality and has the following features: authentication, query initiator, computer for ID, virtual hard disk, scalability, manageability. So we can use this, we can configure the authentication also when we configure the target. That means we can configure the authentication that only the allowed user can access it. Then query initiator, computer for ID. We can use the query initiator that querying for the target computer ID. We can use the virtual hard disk to share. Now basically when you share the block of storage from the server here in Windows Server 2016, so basically we are sharing the virtual disk. So what it do here, for sharing the block of storage, it creates a virtual disk in server and then share that virtual disk with the initiator, with the clients. So it supports the virtual disk. It creates the virtual disk for sharing. It is scalability available, it can easily scalable, and also manageability is also easy. In other hand, this iSCSI initiator is installed by default on Windows Vista, Windows Server 2008 and later operating systems. So all the later operating system, whether client or server operating system, it is installed by default, this initiator. This requires only to be started and configured to connect the computer to the iSCSI target. and also it only need to just start the service and configure to connect the iSCSI target. That's it. Once you configure it, then you don't have to configure it again. The service will be started automatically every time you boot, and then it can connect automatically the target. Now consideration for implementing iSCSI. So before configuring, before implementing the iSCSI, we should consider what the primary factor to consider when planning on using the iSCSI. What iSCSI are: network speeds and performance. So first, whatever the performance it will give, it based on your existing network, because we are going to configure it on existing network. So as much speed you're getting in your existing network, you will get it for the iSCSI also. Then high availability, you have to consider about the high availability, because we are sharing the storage from our server, and in the server the storage are connected directly, the hard disk are directly connected. So we have to consider the high availability feature there. That means we have to configure the RAID and all that in our target server. Then vendor information also important. Then vendor, that means the vendor provider, and also infrastructure staff has to understand the service, and also the application teams has to be considered, that which application needs the centralized storage, or which application need how much is speed of the storage or whatever. This alternative solution to iSCSI are fiber channel and fiber channel over Ethernet, and also InfiniBand. These are also alternative of iSCSI, and iSCSI is also alternative of these fiber channel over Ethernet, and InfiniBand. InfiniBand is also a type of same SAN device network. Now core storage components. First, storage components like which is required for the core. Like first, network adapters. Network adapters are usually used on Ethernet networks. Then HBAs are usually used on storage networks like SAN. So if you are using normal adapter, that means it will work for the iSCSI. But if you are using the fiber channel, then you need HBAs. HBAs, that means hot bus adapters. Hot bus adapters you need for SAN. Then converged network adapters can be used on Ethernet network over SAN. So if you are configuring Ethernet network, SAN over Ethernet network, then you can use converged network adapters. Then InfiniBand host channel adapter are used on InfiniBand networks. Now InfiniBand is a different type of implementation, and for that you need to have a different host channel adapter. Then disk controllers facilitate communication between disk drives and CPUs. Then you need a different disk controllers that facilitate the communication between disk drivers and CPU. That is the drivers you need. Now for configuring the iSCSI. So for configuring the iSCSI, what we have to do? So first we have to add the iSCSI target server role in a service, role service. So the server which is going to be our storage server, like for example this server. So this server is going to be our storage server, where we are going to share the storage for other servers or other clients. So on this server we will install the iSCSI role here. So first we will install the role into this server. Now after installing the role, we will create the two iSCSI virtual disk and an iSCSI target. So it is going to do what? It is going to share the directly attached storage. That means the storage which is directly connected to this server, which is directly connected to this. So like the hard disk which is connected to this server, we are going to share the storage from that hard disk. So what it do, it actually create the virtual disk. It creates the virtual disk from here, and then it will share that virtual disk as a target. And then what we do from the client machine, client can be Windows 10 machine, it can be Windows 10, or it can be other Windows server. So it can be other Windows server also, like Windows 2016. So we can start the initiator on this client machine, and then what we will do, we will first verify the presence of this iSCSI available or not, and then we can connect it to Windows 10, or we can use it from Windows server also. Verify and connect. Now once we connect that storage from the iSCSI storage server, so it is actually virtual disk here, it is sharing the virtual disk from here. So that virtual disk will appear here under this client machine as a physical disk, as a disk. Remember, as a disk it will appear. Now here these servers can use, these machines, these client machines can use that storage to create the partitions. They can use it like their own hard disk. They can create the partitions, they can install any application what they want. They wanted to use any way they can use. Even they can create the partition, then they can share the folder or create the folder on it, and then they can share the folder also. They can share the folder. Now when they share the folder, then what they are using NAS. So that is why it was saying that NAS can have some time in a backend storage as a SAN. So actually the storage is coming from SAN, and then here creating the share folder and sharing the share folder, it is called what? NAS. So NAS is working on, it is stored on what? SAN storage. In a backend it is having a SAN storage. So this is how what we do. First we add the role into the server. Remember we can't use it on Windows client. We can use it only on the server. So we can use it on Windows our server 2016. We install the role of the iSCSI target. Then we configure the iSCSI virtual disk. We can even configure the authentication also. And after configuring, we'll share it. And from the client machine, we start the initiator and verify there is any target or not. And then we connect that. Let's see how we'll do this now. Now this is our server 2016, and as I said before that the iSCSI initiator is by default installed and available in server operating system also. So if I go to tools here, so I can see there iSCSI initiator, but iSCSI target is not there, because this iSCSI target is as a role and we have to install it here, otherwise it is not available. Now where it is available, when after installing, where we can see the iSCSI target, it will not come here under the tools. So when after installing the role, it will not come here. We can get it from this file and storage services. So when you click on file and storage services, you can see the iSCSI option there. So when you click that iSCSI option, so here you can see the iSCSI. Now what it is saying here, it is saying that to use the iSCSI virtual disk, the iSCSI target server role service must be installed. So it is basically saying that the service role is right now not installed. So you have to install that role to configure the iSCSI virtual disks. We can configure it from here, but right now it is not available because it is not installed, and even it is giving the link here to start the installation. So I can start the installation from here. It is started the storage roles and features installation, or I can go to manage and add roles and feature. And then I will go next, role based and feature based installation. Next, I want to install the role on this server. Next, now it is as a role, it is available as a role. Now when you check here, iSCSI target. So you will not see anything like this here. Why? Because it is actually under the file and storage services. So it is 12 services are there and 2 is installed only. So I will open this, and under this you can see here it is saying file and iSCSI services. So I click on this to open, and here we can find iSCSI target server. So if we want to install the iSCSI target server, we will go to file and storage services and file and iSCSI services, and in that we get this iSCSI target service. I click on it and it is going to install, and it provides what it do here. It provides services and management tools for iSCSI targets. So after selecting this, I will go next, and then no feature I need, no extra feature I need, so I will go next. And here I will select OK, whether if it is required then restart the server, and then I will say install. Now it is going to install the iSCSI target here. It is still installing. When some roles or features we are installing like this, we can do what? We can close this without interrupting the running task, and we can view the task progress or open this page again by clicking the notification in the command bar. For example, we can close it from here, but still it is running. We can do some other task, we can do some other job. It is still running in the background. Closing means it is not cancelling. It is still running. We can see it from here. It is still showing here that it is installing. And we can click it to get it back here. So we can close it, and whenever we want we can get it from here. So this is to just close it and do something else if it is taking some time. Now the role is installed here, and what it is saying here, to create a new virtual disk, we can start new virtual disk wizard. So under now iSCSI, we can see that it is saying there is a role is installed, so there is no option. It is not showing to install the role because the role is now installed. So what we can do, we can create now virtual disk to share as a block storage. So we'll go to task and create new virtual iSCSI disk, or if we have already created, then we can import it. So we don't have created, we have not created any, so I'll go for creating, and it opens this new wizard. Now in this wizard it says which server you want to create. So right now we have only one server, and which disk, which partition you want to create. So right now we have only one, that is C drive. So in that C drive we are going to create it. So this is the server, this is the drive I have on that server. Or if you have any other path, right, by default when you select this drive, so what it is going to do, under this drive it is going to create a new folder called iSCSI virtual disk under this drive which is selected, and in that directory it is going to, in that folder it is going to create the virtual disk for this iSCSI. Now if you want to create it in some other folder, then we can select that folder from here. We can mention the custom path and we can browse and select the folder. Otherwise it is going to create under this folder, under the drive it is going to create this folder iSCSI virtual disk, and in that it is going to create the virtual disk. So I'll go with that and I say next, and now you have to provide the name for your virtual disk. So I will say this is my virtual disk 1, or we can say like this virtual disk is for the target 1. So I will mention this as a target 1, tar1. Now it is going to create under here, you can see the path. It is going to create as a tar1.vhdx. You can mention the description here, that why you created it and for who you created it, and then we'll say next. Now next here we have option to select the size for your iSCSI disk. Right now we are having 77 GB, and what we want we can create it. So like I want to create it for 5 GB, so I select the 5 GB. Now the other options we have here is like the fixed size. Now fixed size, that means it is going to take the whole 5 GB at the same time. It is going to take the whole 5 GB at the same time from that C drive. Otherwise, if I don't want, then I can go for dynamically expanding. Now dynamically expanding will not take the whole 5 GB at the same time. It is going to take the size as it required. That means when the users install, when users stores the data into the disk, it will increase. It will increase and it will increase up to 5 GB. Or also we have this option available which we can do. It is called differentiating. Now in this we can create this 5 GB virtual disk inside another virtual disk, and it is asking us to select the parent disk here. That means we can create this virtual disk inside another virtual disk. So that virtual disk will be parent, and the disk which is right now we are creating will be child. So depend on our requirement, we can select, we can go for fixed size, we can go for differentiating, or by default it is selected dynamically expanding. So I'll go with the default one, and next. Now it is asking us to select the target. Now target, by default there is no target available, so it is not showing existing target. Now here we have to select the target. That means we have to create a new target because there is no target we have created previously. So I select the new target. Now this is the target name you have to mention. Now this name will be appear on the client. So when the client try to access the server here, iSCSI server, so it can get this target name. Now we can have multiple targets, like we can create one disk for one target, then other disk for the other target, then other disk for the other target. So right now what disk we are creating, so it is we have to decide that which target we want to create. This disk is for which target. So because there is no target available, because we have not created, so I'm going to create the new target. Now target name I will mention like tar1. We can add the description also, and then I will go next. Now here we have to add the initiator's IQN. That means iSCSI query name of those initiator which we want to allow them to access. Remember, the names which we add here, only those can access it. Otherwise the others will not be able to access it. So only those who have we add them here, only those initiator can access this iSCSI target. So I will add this here. Right now we don't have any, so we can add here, and when we select add, we get this option. Now here we have option to select the query initiator computer ID, not supported on Windows Server 8, R2 or 7 or earlier version. So it is not supported on that versions. This is to select the computer unique ID for it. So the initiator which we want to allow, we can select the unique ID of them. Then we can select the initiator which is already configured. So right now we have not configured any, so it is not showing any here. So we can enter the new IQN. Here we have option to give the IQN. So we can select this and we can copy the IQN. We can write the IQN here. Now where we will get the IQN of the initiator? For that we have to go to the client machine, whether it is Windows 10 client or whether it is Windows Server client. Now this is our Windows 10 machine, and this is going to be our client for accessing that target. Now in every client, every Windows client machines like Windows 10, 8, 7, they have already installed initiator. So iSCSI initiators are already installed in We don't have to install anything, we don't have to do anything. We just have to discover and configure it. We just have to connect it. So the initiator is there, and where we can get the initiator, we can go to control panel under administrative tools. Under the administrative tools, we have this iSCSI initiator, and you will not see in the target here. Target is not available in client machine. Now, if I want to know the initiator iSCSI query name IQN of this Windows 10 machine, then I have to start this initiator here. Now, once you start this, when you double click on it, it asks this message. It says that it is going to start the service right now because it is not running, and it is going to start it after reboot also. It is going to set it automatically. So every time our system will start, this service will also start. So by default it is not running, but when you open it first time, it gives you this option that I'm going to do it this, do you want or not? So when you say no, it is not going to start the service, and when you say yes, it is going to start the service and keep it automatically. That means every time when your system starts, it will boot, the service will start. So I will say yes because I want it. And this is the configuration of iSCSI initiator. So this is the property of the initiator, and when you go to the configuration here, so this is the name, this is the initiator of IQN of this Windows 10 client. It is having a unique format here, unique format like IQN dot and the year 1991-5, and then dot Microsoft.com in reverse, and then colon, it will mention the name of this server, name of this client machine, win1.sci.com. So this is a unique name here. So we have to mention the same name into server. So what I did here, I will copy this, I will paste it here. So this is what win1, and then I will say OK. Now this is the initiator we added. That means we allowed this Windows 10 client machine to access this target, and if we want to allow other machines also, then we will add them also one by one. Now we can add the other machines also one by one. Now we can add them by using the IQN number, or we can use the DNS name also. So it will be more specific because IQN number anyone can change its IQN number to connect. So we can mention DNS name will be very specific. Then if you want to go to more specific, then you can go for IP address also. You can mention the IP address of the client directly, or if you want to go more specific, then you can go for the MAC address of the client. This is to just go for the specific client. That means only that client will be allowed, because MAC address cannot be changed. You can change the IQN name, you can change the DNS name, you can change the IP address, even IP address also, but you cannot change the MAC address. So only the MAC address we mention here, those MAC addresses will be allowed. The other MAC addresses will not be allowed. So one by one you will add all those clients IQN, IP, name or MAC address which you want to allow. Now once you have configured this, then you will go next, and here we can configure the authentication. Authentication, that means we can configure the username and password for connecting this target. Now the same username and password must be provided by the client initiator to connect this target. If the client initiator does not provide the right name or password, then it will not be allowed to connect. So we have this authentication option available, that is CHAP. Now CHAP means Challenge Authentication Protocol. Challenge Handshake Authentication Protocol. Now Challenge Handshake Authentication Protocol, that means first the client will challenge it, the client send the request to the server will challenge, and then the client will send the response, and then they will do the handshake. Now we will configure this later. I will just configure without the authentication right now. I will show you how we can configure this also. Next. So this is what we have selected here. I have not selected any authentication. I have selected this target, this initiator to be allowed, and then I will say create. Now this is created here. I can close now and we can see this here. So this is the virtual disk and this is the initiator which is allowed to connect. Right now it is not connected, so nobody has connected to this, so we cannot, we are seeing here that not connected. And here we can see the information about the target. So we can see the target name, target server, target IQN, and it is also not connected, and allowed initiators. Now there is no connection. So now what I will do, I will go to Windows 10 machine and try to connect this target. Now in Windows 10 machine, this iSCSI initiator is already running. If it is not running, then you will go to control panel, administrative tools, and start this. Now this time it is not asking about the service because it is already started the service. Now what we will do here, we will connect the target, and it is very easy to connect. Just we have to select the target name or IP address here. Now first I will show you the disk management, that how many disks we have here. Now in this system we have only one hard disk, disk 0. There is no other hard disk, there is no other physical hard disk we have. Now see what happens when we connect it. So here what we will do, we will give the server IP address here, or we can give the name of that server. So I will give the IP address directly, 16.0.0.1. This is the iSCSI server IP, and I will say quick connect. Now when you click on quick connect, it searches on that server for the targets, and you can see that it is showing here the target 1 which is connected on server 1, target 1, and now it is connected. It is saying it is connected, status is logging succeed. Now there is no authentication was there, so it is connected directly. When I say done, it is, we can see here that it is connected, and we can also see on the server that it is connected. So on server it is saying not connected, but when I refresh it, it says now connected. So because we have one client connected. Now after connecting, what we get here, so we will see it in the, I will press OK and close, and then when we see the disk management, we can see the new disk here. Now it is looking like a new disk connected here, but it is actually what, the iSCSI disk. It is not initialized, so we can do initialize it. Then we can use this to create new partitions, new volumes. And now we can use it as its own, as our own hard disk, and we can use it here. We can install applications, we can use whatever we want to do. It will look like a partition or volume here, and that is why it is called the storage, block level storage, because it is shared the block. So from the server we shared the block of storage of 5 GB, and then in the client we are using the block here as a hard disk, and we can use it to configure the partitions, configure the volumes, and use it whatever we want. We can use it for applications, data, and whatever. And this will be automatically, the service of the initiator will always automatically start it. So whenever our system starts or reboot, it will start the service also. So this is our iSCSI here. When you right click on it, you can assign the iSCSI virtual disk, you can assign different disks, you can extend the virtual disk, disable and remove. You can see the properties also. This is the property of the disk. It is a virtual disk which is stored here, 5 GB dynamic, and this is the server, and the access server is initiator. This is the initiator which can access, and it is connected right now. And last logon is also showing here. There is no description, serial number, and the number for the LUN is what? 0. Then if you go down here, you can see the information about the target. You can go to right click, you can disable or remove the target, or you can go to the properties and you can see the property of the target. So this is the name, no description. This is the IQN for the target. It is connected. For initiators, you can check this initiator is allowed. And now if you want to allow more initiators, then you can add it right now from here. For security, we have not configured security, but if you want, then we can configure the security right now. You can check the connection status. Right now this IQN, this initiator is connected. Session 1 is count. The count of session is 1. So right now one initiator is connected and connected to access this target. So this is how we can do what? We can configure the iSCSI. We can configure the iSCSI target, and we can share the iSCSI target from the server, and we can use it from the client. We can use it from the iSCSI client. Even we can use it from the Windows Server member also. If you are having a member server, then also on the member server you can go to the initiator from the tool and just configure, just like what we did in Windows 10. Same as Windows 10, we can connect the server also, member server also. And this is the configuration of iSCSI target.